Hello, beautiful people. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you did not know, if you did know, I am Jordan, and I am just some bitch on the internet. I like to talk about whatever the fuck I want to, and sometimes I play games. Today, I grace your screens, whether that's a TV, phone, mobile, computer, whatever the fuck it is. I grace your screen because I am here to talk about the very first season of Bad Boys LA. I forgot to mention to stay to the very end of the video if you guys want to see me rate the entire cast Abby Lee Miller dance bomb style via pyramid. So please stay to the end. Please, please, please. Now, before we actually get into it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all of the good things. When we hit 100 subscribers, I will actually be giving you guys an entire cast list ranking from Bad Girls Club. With all of that out of the way, I'll let you get into it. Bad Boys is a reality TV series produced by Natalie Nunn that aired in 2020 on the Zeus network. Now, Bad Boys was supposed to be a spin-off of Baddies, but involving boys instead of girls. The official show description on the Zeus network reads, "For years, the girls have held down the title of Bad, while the fellas have stood on the sideline. But for now, it's the guys' turn to lay claim to the crown." Reality star Milan Christopher, celebrity hairstylist Jonathan Wright, Notorious Offspring Carry-On Franklin, and Insta famous stars Relly B and Andrew Caldwell join a cast of some of today's biggest personalities to establish a brand, start some mess, and take over LA. While the girls may be the baddies, the boys are setting out to prove that they are the baddest. Now, we do have a full 12 episodes, averaging about 45 minutes per episode, with no reunion, oddly enough. Now, if there is a reunion that's not on the Zeus network and you guys want me to cover it, let me know, and I definitely will. But there wasn't a reunion from what I could see on the Zeus network. Now, I might verify that once again when I'm editing this so I don't sound like a fool. So our cast does get introduced to us within the first episode, starting with Carry On, who is 33 and actually Kirk Franklin's son; Anthony, who is a self-proclaimed party boy from Texas; Ernest, who is 27 from New York City and described himself to be a bit of a man whore as he is used to juggling many women; Dylan, who is 22 from Tennessee, who is also a party promoter; Milan Christopher, who is 36 and from Chicago; Rula Mo, who is from Rochester, New York. He owns his own radio station alongside a clothing company and a car dealership; Relly B, who's 24 from a small town outside of Baton Rouge, and he is most known for a video of his that went viral; William the Baddest, who is 28 and from LA; Gutta K, who was 21 at the time of filming and from Flint, Michigan, but resides in Atlanta and makes music. So our first episode really started at the promo photo shoot for the season, where we saw a castmate who I did not mention above throwing a huge fit. Now, we don't actually know what his issue was, but his name is Andrew. So like I said, we don't know what his issue is, but we do know that he upset the other castmates with his attitude, mainly Milan Christopher. Milan and Andrew quickly got to arguing, where Milan tried to accuse Andrew of sliding in his DMs, which I don't know what relevance that has to the arguments, but Andrew continued on arguing until production had to escort him off to a different part of the set. Inside the production photo shoot set, Andrew was popping his shit, talking about how he's the baddest boy, but from behind security. At that point, Andrew just started pissing off every single one of the castmates by just talking straight out the side of his fucking mouth, like he was just talking shit, literally about whatever the he could. Somehow the boys were able to carry on with their photo shoot while talking shit about Andrew the entire time. After the shoot, production had to have a conversation to the side with Andrew about his antics. Meanwhile, Milan and a few others were doing everything they could to find Andrew, but they couldn't. Production then had to sit down with the boys to tell them that they wouldn't be jumping Andrew, and I appreciate that production didn't let them jump him, but where's that same energy for the other shows? Where's the same energy for other shows? I swear to God, I've literally seen security and production not do shit and let jumping occur and not step into fights when they definitely should. They literally let Ivory continue to beat up Summer way longer than they should have, and they actually stopped other baddies from trying to help break it up before breaking up the fight themselves.
You disappointed me. You disappointed me.
The next day, the boys loaded onto their sprinters to go from their hotel to their bad boy's house. On the sprinter, the men tried to get down to business by asking what everybody's sexuality was. Mullah Mo did an interview to say that he wanted to let everybody know that he was straight and that if anybody tried it with him, he would, quote, knock their head off, but in the same breath wanted to say that he respects gay people.
What the fuck is that?
Natalie was at the bad boys' house waiting to greet the boys when production told her that Andrew had essentially ghosted them and that he was nowhere to be found. On the sprinter, out of nowhere, Dylan wanted to address William and said that William was apparently talking shit about him. When the boys did make it to the house, Dylan wanted to try to fight William on the van, and that was low-key performative. Like, you deadass couldn't wait until you got off the sprinter. Like, you literally couldn't wait till you got off the sprinter. Regardless, Dylan threw a bag at William, then tried to hit him with some weak-ass punches while security removed him from the sprinter. Once off the sprinter, it was mayhem until Dylan and William squared up for a real round, but they were really just forced into it, with Relly telling Dylan that if he didn't hit William, he would fight Dylan himself. Now, their round was very, very weak, but Relly's reaction was to step in and fight Dylan instead to, I don't know, give him a real fade or give him an actual fight or make him, I don't know. But he decided to step in and fight Dylan instead, which I disagree with, but Dylan was only doing shit for cameras with William. I won't lie. It definitely seemed like he just picked an issue for the camera. At that point, Dylan had already walked off saying that he was done and ready to go home. Natalie came out and tried to figure out what was going on and defuse some sort of the mayhem. Dylan was terrified to come back and talk to Natalie, but with the protection of Milan and security, he came back in so that they could try and talk something out. But out of nowhere, Relly was then ready to fight William, which was another weak fight. I won't lie, it was kind of a weak fight. Relly then ran back at William for no reason to hit him yet again. In an interview clip, Relly wanted to say that he wasn't bullying anybody because he warned them that he wanted to fight them, but it's like, Relly, they literally had no issue with you and they didn't want to fight you at all. You literally just started fighting them because you thought their fights were weak. Natalie had security take Relly away to sit down for a second to cool off camera. Production got the scene reset for Natalie to come out and actually address the boys with the rules and the ways of the show. Relly was acting like a badass toddler in timeout from the sprinter, with Natalie calling him out for it. Eventually, the boys were able to go in the big ass house, explore, and claim their beds. Production also had William, Dylan, and Relly have a talk about how they didn't want to fight each other anymore. Production also had William, Dylan, and Relly have a talk so that they could discuss and hopefully get to common grounds about how they didn't want to fight anymore, which they did. Gutta and Anthony were hanging out in Mullah's room, but they clocked the weird homophobic vibe from Mullah very quickly and left the room. Like I said, I know I said homophobic vibe, and it's honestly, he was just giving off a weird vibe, and it was really giving like you just don't want anything but straight in your room. It was just a little odd, but we'll come back to that, don't you worry. Gutta and Carry On had their eye on the same room, but they were able to settle it in a comical manner. Whereas when Anthony found a room he wanted, he jumped on the bed and broke it right away. It was kind of funny. He literally broke the bed right away. Milan came in and said that the room was actually his, and they seriously started scuffling over the room. Like, at first I thought they were just pushing each other around and joking about like fighting over the room, but then they actually started to fight. Now, security did take Anthony out, but he had Milan's chain as he left. The boys then had a final first meeting with Natalie for her to give them their official introduction to the show. Natalie called Andrew a coward and said that he is officially no longer on the show. Natalie even showed the boys a recording they had of the final conversation with Andrew about him leaving. Natalie obviously showed the boys this so that they could all just dogpile on Andrew with a good enough excuse. In this conversation, out of nowhere, Milan wanted to say that he doesn't like when people talk shit and can't back it up, then proceeded to say that he didn't like how Relly acted towards Dylan and William. Milan then threw whatever was in his cup at Relly and began to fight with him as the episode ended there. This episode picked back up with Milan and Relly's fight. Not much damage was done from either party aside from scratching, but security had to do the most to stop this fight. Once the boys were separated for a minute, Relly did try to run around security to come back to Milan for another round. Relly didn't really do a whole lot before security was able to get involved yet again. Carry On then got livid about Milan throwing liquor on his shit because it got on his jacket. Gutta had the same reaction I did in an interview clip.
Girl, calm down.
He shouldn't have brought his good shit somewhere it could get easily messed up, i.e. the bad boy's house. Gunna walked around trying to tell people to calm down, while Moolah Mo did this interview clip to say that he was in a house full of, quote, divas. And I wanted to quote that because I feel like he was using that in a belittling way. Then said that the boys in the house should have signed up for baddies. And I really hate this sentiment because in the prior episode, Anthony told Mo really plainly that he is in a house where the majority is not straight people, so he's the one that needs to get comfortable. Mo's the one that, like I said, really needs to be comfortable, and he literally needs to understand the environment he's in and not be ignorant about it. I feel like an individual of whatever sexual orientation can be on a show called Bad Boys, but that's just me. Natalie tried to change the energy by asking Dylan how he felt about Milan having his back. Dylan said thank you, but he felt like he had his own back.
I know you don't believe that. I know you don't believe that.
He literally did not. Other boys had mixed opinions about this. Some thought Milan did have Dylan's back, others thought that he didn't, and some thought it was shit that Dylan basically needed someone to stand up for him because he didn't want to stand up for himself. After Relly and Milan fought, they told Natalie that they'd be able to squash it after this, as Milan just really needed to check Relly real quick. He just thought Relly was acting weird and needed to check him. But Natalie was done telling the boys that the fans didn't want to see pussy behavior a million times. She literally said, that's what the fans don't want to see. This is what the fans, I promise you, don't want to see. She said it so many times. She showed the boys videos from the fans talking about what they did want to see from the cast. The boys again had a mixed experience with this. Some enjoyed it while others said that they didn't care about the fans' opinions. Mo then again out of nowhere wanted to say that he only likes women and that if someone were to, quote, violate that, he would have to fight them. And this is such a crazy statement because it's like he thinks that men in the house would be so obsessed with him that they wouldn't be able to control themselves. And it's such an ignorant ass mindset. The boys tried to have a toast with Natalie, but the boys weren't really feeling the fakeness of the toast. In this toast, Mo tried to toast to being straight, which is crazy. It's literally crazy. Like, why is that what you're toasting to? I don't know. Then tried to call out Carry On and ask him about his sexuality and tried to say that it's because he is on, quote, Team Straight, and Carry On is acting weird. And I'm like,
She gotta go. We're not doing none of that shit. Hell no.
Girl, excuse me? How is someone not conforming to your idea of sexuality weird? Like, how is that weird? At this point, I was seriously questioning if I could continue watching this because the homophobia was loud, girl. It was fucking loud. It was literally loud. Mo continued to pry at Carry On's sexuality. Like, he continued to say that it was, quote, Team Straight over there. And I really do agree with Carry On in his rebuttal. Like, I don't know why the fuck it matters. I don't know why it matters. In an interview segment, Mo tried to say that, quote, it's not his business to know Carry On's sexuality, but then continued to say that if you're gay, you need to say it.
Got it. Noted. You're a weird.
His logic actually makes no sense, and he's a ignorant fool. He's an ignorant fool because, like, what? Why do you need to say it? Who are you? Who are you? Why do I need to say it to you? Relly and a few of the other boys tried to step in and also ask why it mattered. Regardless, Curtis, who was the other member of, quote, Team Straight, was standing next to Mo at the time, and he argued that Mo should at least be able to air out his opinion, but I would disagree in that Mo has already aired out his opinion. He literally has. Everyone was questioning Mo and Curtis, literally for the right reason, because the shit that was coming out of their mouths was low-key kind of crazy. Yet it did get to a point where I think Mo felt like he was backed up in a corner and took off on Carry On. In an interview clip, Mo tried to say that this fight wasn't about him being homophobic. He said that Carry On got loud and so Mo hit him, but Carry On was literally never getting loud. Like I said, I think that Mo was feeling like he was backed into a corner and didn't know what else to do, so he ran up and hit Carry On. In the commotion of the aftermath, Milan ran up to fight Curtis for how he was defending and egging on Mo, and for how he pushed Carry On in Carry On's fight with Mo. He low-key, they kept saying that he jumped in. I'm not entirely sure if he did jump in. He definitely, like, did something, so that's why he definitely, like, pushed Carry On while he was fighting Mo. Mo went on to do an interview to say that what Milan did was shit, as he should have had Curtis square up for a fair fade, but he was also the one who just snuck Carry On in almost the same fashion, so he's really just talking out of his ass. Other boys like Anthony try to stand up to Team Straight for their bigoted actions. Eventually, Natalie broke this up to tell the boys that they needed to respect each other and relax. Anthony wanted to stand on fighting for open sexuality, low-key as he should. Anthony was yelling at Mo to provoke him and even tossed a glass of water at Curtis that got all over his face. From this, all you could hear here was Natalie yelling about how they can't throw things, mixed with Gutta complaining about how all the fights were weak. Natalie did make an attempt to ask Anthony and Milan if they would be able to let this go for now, maybe even have some sort of dialogue about the situation. Very reluctantly, they agreed to, like I said, try and have some sort of dialogue with Mo. A blurred out Randall, which I thought was a slay at the time, but at the literal final episode, he unblurs his face, and it's like, excuse me? Anyway, he tried to act like the CEO he is, and he tried to get everything under control so that there would be no more fighting for the night. Natalie tried to tell the boys that they would need to learn to deal with different personalities, even the bigoted ones. Milan and Anthony tried to tell Natalie about how he was being disrespectful, but Natalie wanted to say that Mo was just asking questions when he really wasn't. Like, he really wasn't just asking questions. He was being an ignorant fool. Gutta even popped off to the umpteenth degree over the disrespect that was spewed from Mo and Curtis. Natalie tried to ask Carry On about how he was feeling, and he said that both parties were being weird and said that Mo was a nosy punk ass bitch, which is factual. Mo then wanted to talk shit back by asking if Carry On would need that. With Natalie telling the boys it was time for bed, Carry On and Mo continued to stare each other down as the episode ended. Episode 3 started with a BS conversation between Mo and Curtis where they were complaining about how they felt like the whole house got the wrong perception of them from what they said in the previous episode. And I don't know how else they were supposed to take it, as Mo literally said that he wanted to suss out Carry On's sexuality so he would know whether or not to hang out with him. To most people, that says that you only want to be friends with solely straight people, and that is kind of weird in my opinion. Milan walked up on their conversation outside, and for God knows why, Curtis said that Milan stepping in was, quote, bullshit, with Mo dogpiling on and agreeing that it was, quote, bullshit. I loved Milan's response because he said, quote, no, what y'all did was some bullshit. And, quote, y'all ended up trying to push this man to come out. He clearly ain't telling you whether he's gay or straight, and it's really not even an issue. Fucking period. He didn't say that part, but he did go on to say, then you telling him that you're either on this side with us or you're on that side with them, like you're trying to segregate people. Direct quotes. Bitch, Milan read him for fucking filth. Milan further tried to explain how ignorant the pair was being by comparing the situation to race segregation. Milan explained that if Mo was, quote, a white man telling a black person that you can't stand over here with me because you're black, that's exactly how you made me feel, and that's a direct quote from Milan. And I come back to this later in my script because a little bit of a spoiler, I guess. Like, Mo, they kind of do talk themselves out of the situation, and they kind of drop the whole issue for now. And honestly, I'm not the person to assign value to how, like, what I perceive them doing is extremely homophobic, and what I perceive them doing later is extremely transphobic. But as I'm not somebody who is, you know, actually a part of the community, I'm just an ally. I can't assign, you know, the value to, like, how offensive it is. I just can identify that, at least to me, as a third opinion, it is at the very least offensive. And like I said, it kind of gets dropped for now, but Moolah Mo does something later that, like I said, is kind of giving transphobic. And I kind of bring this up again where I'm like, how does Moolah Mo not see how he is segregating people? And like, he does not see the similarities at all, and like how his behavior like singles people out because of a certain thing about them, you know? And it's like, I don't know. Milan continued on and asked Mo why he felt the need to swing on Carry On, as it made Milan feel like Mo was bullying Carry On. And Milan didn't tolerate bullies. Literally, that's what he said. He's like, I don't like bullies. No bullies. He's like Shanrock in this bitch. No bullies. All Mo tried to say was that Carry On was flexing on him, and he really wasn't, though. Like, Carry On wasn't flexing on him. Mo's biggest defense is that Carry On was either getting loud with him, or he was either flexing on him, and he was doing like, or trying to like one-up him, like do these things, and that's why he fought him. And it's like, no, you really swung on him because you felt like you were backed in a corner and you needed something to like switch up the tension. That's what happened. I swear that's what happened. Mo carried on with his ignorant ass words, and Milan was trying very hard to not only explain how messed up and bigoted Mo was, but he was also trying to tell Mo that no one was flexing on him. Like, literally no one was, like, flexing where? flexing wear. At the end of the day, Mo tried to say that he could have worded it differently and that he didn't want any issues and ultimately blamed it on the liquor. Milan said the same thing, I thought, in that Mo needed to run this apology back to Carry On. Like, what's the point in giving and saying all this to Milan when you actually need to be saying it to Carry On? Carry On had a conversation about how he was feeling with Gutta and Relly. Carry On talked about how he felt like a sit-down conversation would be needed with Mo and Curtis. Gutta made it be known that he really wanted to be involved in this conversation as well. Relly then took his turn to talk about how he was actually friends with William and fought Dylan for William at the end of the day. Later, Curtis and Mo finally had a sit down with Carry On to try and talk it out. In this conversation, Carry On was getting into their business by asking if they knew each other off camera, if they had planned to share a room, you know, like all of that jazz. When you could tell this was getting to Mo, Mo wanted to ask the same thing that got him into this mess by almost demanding rather than asking about Carry On's sexuality. Carry On continued on with what he was saying, and he was trying to imply from this conversation that Curtis and Mo might have a Bert and Ernie type vibe going on. So while Carry On was saying all this, Mo really just wanted to say that he was saying that because he was trying to avoid the question of his sexuality, which is kind of crazy because Moolah Mo kind of already knows at this point that Carry On just isn't going to answer that question. He just doesn't want to respect that. Like, he literally just doesn't want to respect the fact that Carry On just doesn't want to ask the question. Carry On then tried to ask the two boys if they wouldn't hang out with anyone who wasn't straight. And Mo tried to play it off like that wasn't the case when that is the case. As I said, he literally said that he wanted to try and figure out Carry On's sexuality to know whether or not he could hang out with him or not. Mo wanted to stay defensive and try to say that he only popped off on Carry On because Carry On was getting loud with him, but like I tried to mention, he literally wasn't. Like, in this conversation now, he's being more loud and more disrespectful than he ever was in previous episodes. Mo and Curtis continued to press Carry On about his sexuality, and when Carry On opened up about it, Mo immediately wanted to say that it was a shock because Carry On is Kirk Franklin's son. And I'm like, wowee, that's kind of crazy. Like, a person's parents don't dictate their sexuality. Mo is actually dense in the head because he then tried to ask Carry On if his father supported his lifestyle, which is so not okay to ask somebody. Like, what? Later, Anthony talked to Milan to squash their little tiff that they had over the bedroom, and Anthony let Milan air out what Curtis and Mo had said to Milan. In the midst of this, Milan got a call from Natalie, who told the boys that it was time for the boys to be outside and meet her out for the night. Natalie also told the boys that they couldn't be cutting up like they were at the house while out and about. The boys got ready to go out and loaded onto the sprinter to head out to the venue that was a bowling alley. The boys did arrive and had a quick pep talk with Natalie before going in. Natalie told them to behave themselves and truly represent the bad boys as a whole. She was like, you guys are the first faces, first season of the franchise. Please represent. Please put on for bad boys. The boys enjoyed their little red carpet moment outside the venue. Once inside, they saw a bunch of celebrities and had a good time. Some of the boys got irritated by William throwing his ass around everywhere, which would have been fine if they were like at an actual club, but they were at a bowling alley and he was just throwing ass everywhere. And I do understand that part. That I do understand. As the night went on, Mo got irate and said that William had actually danced on him at one point, which set him off to be in a bad mood. He then stepped outside with Curtis, where they talked it out briefly and then made their way back inside. Out of nowhere, DaBaby, who happened to be at the bowling alley, got into a fight on the bowling alley lanes, and it caught everyone's attention as the episode ended. Episode 4 continued with DaBaby fighting his baby mother's brother or something and completely ruined the vibe of the event. On the van leaving the event, Mo was telling the other boys about how William's dancing in the bowling alley made him uncomfortable. The other boys seemed to understand where he was coming from, but William took this as Mo wanted to fight him for it. In the morning, Milan, Relly, and Anthony talked about what happened at the bowling alley. They also talked about how Nat wanted them to throw a big-ass party to represent the bad boy. Anthony told them he would definitely hit the pavement running on getting things coordinated as he is a party planner. Milan wanted to get the other artists in the house together to possibly make a song for, the season and, just for the boys as a whole to represent them. This conversation ended with Milan telling the other boys that William had actually left the house as William felt like Mo was going to fight him, but Mo really didn't want to fight him. Milan also said that he wanted to make an attempt to chat with William to see if he'd be willing to come back. Later, Milan called William to see what was going on with him. William essentially said that it didn't matter whether Mo was going to fight him or not. He felt the vibe, and the vibe he felt was that Mo wanted to fight him. They left it on a note where William said he would come to the house for a chat, but he did not want to fight at all. Milan went to talk to Dylan to see if he could get more information as to why William felt like he needed to leave, because Dylan and William were roommates. Dylan basically said that William was just paranoid. We then got a scene of Mo and Curtis talking about their time at the bowling alley. Dylan came out to tell them that William thought Mo and Curtis were going to jump him, and that's why he left. Then and there, Mo said that if he wanted to fight William, he would have done so on the bus, which I do fully believe. That night, William did come back to the house to talk to production about why he wanted to leave. After talking to production, Mo walked up to talk to William, but William was extremely scared. It was so clear. It was very clear he was really scared. All Mo wanted to say to William was that he felt like William crossed a boundary in the club, and William had also leaked the cast list for the season, and those were his biggest issues with William. Mo did say that he had no intentions of getting physical with William, he just wanted to talk to him. But ultimately, William wanted to cop please and not even hear it, so William got in his car and left. He literally didn't even want to finish hearing whatever Mo had to say. Gutta was in Carry On's room messing with him and trying to suss out the nature of their relationship. They agreed that they'd be just friends for now, and Gutta said that Carry On can't flirt with him anymore, and they did agree to keep their relationship just friendly. Gutta then got emotional while talking about his fathers with Carry On, about how he lost his birth father when he was young, and then he recently lost his stepfather, who he held in a high regard. Gutta then asked Carry On about his relationship with his dad, that being Kirk Franklin, and Carry On talked about their tumultuous relationship. This was a nice conversation from the two boys. Boys have a hard time opening up and being vulnerable when it comes to, the dynamics that these two boys were discussing specifically. Relly then also felt the need to call William and talk to him about why he left. William said the same shit that he has been saying. He thought that Mo was going to fight him when Mo really wasn't going to. Mo was just addressing real shit that needed to be addressed. Relly then tried to tell William that no one would touch him if he came back into the house, but William was not having it. Later, Milan held a house meeting to discuss a few things. The first being that William had officially left the house. Second being that they would be hosting a party. Third, he told them that they had studio time booked for the next day so that they could record a song, like I said, to reflect all the boys as a whole. They ended this meeting and this episode with a toast. Episode 5 started off extremely bizarre with Milan showing off his line of sex toys that were molded after his own genitalia. Anthony ended this conversation by telling Milan that they had a fashion show planned for the day after their studio session. The boys did quickly get up and load onto the vans so that they could actually head out to the studio. On the van ride over to the studio, vibes were all over the place. Some of the boys were excited, others were weary of making a song with some of the other boys that were, just on the cast. Others seemed to not care at all. Anthony quickly changed the subject to talk about the fashion show, but it seemed like he was slightly irritated that Milan wanted to be in charge of everything and run everything, which has very much been the dynamic that's been brewing. The boys did make it to the studio where they had a fun time. Milan even let Relly wear his big ass chain to help get Relly in the mood. Outside, Gutta and Anthony were messing with Relly about him wearing Milan's chain, but Relly was saying that he and Milan were just friends, but then said in an interview clip that they'd make a cute couple, and I do agree with that. While recording their song, the sound engineer had to leave early, yet none of the boys really knew how to actually mix and produce a song. Carry On wanted to step up as he had some knowledge and felt like he could YouTube what he didn't know and get the job done. Milan hated this idea and started to argue with Carry On about it. The two boys continued to bicker back and forth until Carry On moved himself outside to calm down. Surprisingly, Curtis went out to check on Carry On about this situation. Carry On really just felt like Milan really didn't trust any of the potential skills Carry On had. Carry On did eventually calm down and go back inside. Once back inside, the song engineer officially left their studio session literally in the middle of them trying to produce their song. Milan then started yelling at different people off screen to get someone else to come in and save their song, literally just save it. Carry On spoke up and said that he could have easily done that with a little help from the internet, but Milan didn't trust his abilities to do so. Very quickly, Carry On and Milan got right back to arguing. When Carry On got up from his seat, Milan grabbed a liquor bottle as if he was going to hit Carry On upside the head with it. The argument from there got way worse, with Carry On trying to say that Milan not only tried to get with Carry On, but that Milan had to suck to to get somewhere, which are definite fighting words. From there, production had to take Milan outside to try to calm him down. Eventually, the boys did have to conclude their studio session. As the boys were trying to load on the van, Milan said that he didn't want to keep fighting. He wanted to go to the fashion show. Carry-On kept on arguing about the same shit that I literally already mentioned. The episode ended with tensions rising and Milan shadowboxing off to the side in this parking lot. Episode 6 picked back up with tension in the parking lot between Carry-On and Milan. Eventually, they did stop the BS and they went loaded onto the Sprinter so they could head to the fashion show, yet Carry-On did ride separately. On the way to the fashion show, Milan would not stop talking about how he felt disrespected by Carry-On. Once they got to the fashion show, Milan made a beeline for Carry-On and popped off on him the minute he saw him. It was hard to see, but he did run up on Carry-On as soon as he stepped off the Sprinter van. The other boys were irritated that Milan acted out at the fashion show, as Milan was the main one telling the other boys not to act out at all at the fashion show. Now, the fashion show organizer was extremely upset as he was one of Milan's friends, and this fashion show was kind of for charity, so, they really should not have been cutting up at the fashion show. Milan then wanted to throw a small tantrum and sit out from the fashion show in the van while the others had a good time. Mo was throwing a small fit because he thought that he would be catered to at the fashion show, when in reality, fashion shows with high paid models aren't catered to in the way that he wanted to be. He wanted a full new haircut, he wanted everything on himself to be groomed, and it's once again, this is a fashion show for charity. I don't know what you thought this was. In the midst of the show, Milan decided that he did want to participate as the fashion show was put on by his friend, like I mentioned earlier. In the end, the boys did successfully walk in the show for charity. The next day, Gutta, Dylan, and Curtis talked about what happened in the studio and how it continued at the fashion show. The boys talked about how they didn't respect Milan for how he just ran up on Carry-On at the fashion show, which is, kind of odd. Like I said, he's supposed to be the leader. He's trying to act like the leader, and he told all the other boys not to be cutting up at the fashion show, and he literally did just that. He did just that. Milan then talked to Mo about his issue with Carry-On that transpired in the previous episode. Milan wanted to say that he was really upset over the things Carry-On had said while they were arguing in the studio after Milan had defended Carry-On from Mo and Curtis. Milan kind of felt a type of way because he was literally just defending Carry-On, and then here Carry-On was arguing in turn with him. Out by the pool, Anthony, Relly, and Carry-On talked about how Milan was being low-key shady and about how they just didn't like his overall holier-than-thou attitude. Relly hosted a house meeting where he said that he felt that both Milan and Carry-On should apologize to each other. Carry-On didn't think he had to apologize for anything, and that's crazy because both boys should definitely apologize in my opinion. They both kind of crossed lines in the recording studio. Milan was arguing to an extent and so was Carry-On. They were both kind of throwing low blows in my opinion. Relly then wanted to address the fact that none of them are leaders, but it quickly derailed back to Milan and Carry-On arguing yet again. Milan and Carry-On argued back and forth until Carry-On wanted to run up on Milan, yet security stopped him from actually swinging on Milan. Milan was also standing behind this weird ass podium type thing. With that, Milan then stepped out from behind that little ass podium I just told you that he was standing behind, and the episode ended with, like I said, Milan trying to square up with Carry-On from there. Episode 7 kicked off with the fight that begun in the previous episode, or was starting to begin, between Milan and Carry-On. This round between the two boys was pretty short as security got involved very quickly. Milan stormed off upstairs and Carry-On took himself outside as their fighting had subsided. The two boys did eventually come back to the house meeting where they tried to talk out their issues in an attempt to move past it. Milan did end up apologizing, but Carry-On did not reciprocate the sentiment in that he did not apologize back. After the meeting, Relly went to talk to Carry-On one-on-one and tried to get him to understand that Milan apologized genuinely, so Carry-On has no reason to continue to be so, antagonistic towards him or the situation. Carry-On continued to talk shit like he wanted the smoke from the boys, but he actually didn't really want the smoke, and Relly was just trying to get him to chill out. Weirdly, Milan then passed out his sex toys that were replicated after his genitalia to the other housemates, he had a variety of different ones. Production sat the boys down to introduce a new bad boy that would be joining the cast, Jonathan Wright, a 23-year-old celebrity hairstylist from Dallas, Texas. Jonathan made his way into the bad boy's house to absolutely gag the rest of the boys. The boys all seemed pretty happy to see Jonathan as well, I won't lie. He kind of came into a warm, happy reception. When Jonathan started asking about what room was his, the boys all told him that his room would be upstairs. Jonathan went upstairs to find a room and decided that he wanted Milan's room as it was the biggest. Jonathan pressed Milan over the room and asked how Milan got the biggest room, then told him that they would be sharing the room. Milan then told Jonathan that if they aren't fucking, then they aren't going to be sharing a room, which was kind of an odd response from Milan, I won't lie, kind of insinuating like, oh, if you want to be sharing this room, then we have to be fucking. It's like, oh, okay. The boys started a little standoff in the master bedroom until Jonathan left to go drink, but would be coming back to later claim his room. Jonathan had drinks with the boys and low-key called out Milan for wanting to act like the leader of the boys. Milan talked his way out of this situation, so Mullah Mo took his chance to call out Jonathan, as apparently Jonathan was supposed to do an interview on Mullah Mo's radio station, but Jonathan allegedly ducked the interview, and like I said, Mo thought that this was the right time to call him out for it. The conversation then turned to the beef between Mo and Carry-On when Jonathan asked who Mo had beef with already. Jonathan brought the talk back to how he was going to be taking the master bedroom from Milan, but Milan didn't want to back down. Jonathan did try to say that he could share the room, but Milan didn't want to do that. Like I said, he kept trying to say that we could only share the room if we'd be f***ing. Honestly, I knew Milan was ducking wreck from Jonathan the second that Jonathan addressed him as Mulan instead of Milan, and Milan didn't do anything. At that point, I was like, oh, okay, Milan, you're definitely trying to duck the fade from this guy, and it's definitely giving absolutely no shade. Like, he just called you Mulan instead of Milan, my guy, on purpose. Jonathan then made his way upstairs so he could stand on the ground that he wanted the master bedroom. Milan then followed right behind him upstairs as he did not want to back down either. Relly was upstairs to get a front row view of the fight. He was literally in between the two boys getting a view of all of the action, while all of the other boys were downstairs pondering whether or not Milan would actually try to fight Jonathan. Like I said, you could definitely tell that Milan did not want to fight Jonathan. I mean, Jonathan just kept saying that they could share the room. When he says or what, you know, that's when Milan really should have fought him for the room, if Milan like really didn't want to be sharing this room. Yeah, Milan just kept talking about how he would only be sharing the room if they were fucking, like I said. So it was kind of odd, you know, like it was like Jonathan kept trying to press Milan and Milan kept trying to ignore the fact that Jonathan was outright pressing him for a fade, you know, like we could share it or what. But Milan just kept trying to ignore the or what part and kept being like, we can only share it if we're girl. He was just definitely ducking the fade from Jonathan as hard as he possibly could. Now this whole standoff ended with Jonathan saying that they could settle it later and that he would stay at a hotel for the night. The episode ended with Milan calling his friend to see if he could pull up to not only the party they would be having, but Milan also just wanted his friend to be in the house in general to have his back with a future fade with Jonathan. In the morning, Gutta, Carry-On, and Dylan talked about Jonathan's entrance and yet again questioned if Milan would run the fade with him or not. And, you know, I definitely didn't think he would be. I definitely did not think Milan would be running that fade. I did not. That's not something I would bet on. The rest of the boys spent their time getting ready for this pool party that they would be hosting. Before the party got started, Relly took it upon himself to host a little chat sit-down thing between Carry-On and Milan so they could officially squash their beef, as Carry-On never really apologized and said his piece when Milan did apologize. So they did talk it through and I was low-key proud of them. I won't lie. I was like, wow, how nice. They actually squashed their beef. As the party started, Milan and a few others were disappointed with the small outcome at their party, and so Milan decided to post his own invite to try and bring in a bigger crowd. The party did turn out full. Natalie was even there. You could spot her big ass chin in a few of the transition scenes, along with DJ Sky. At this party, very surprisingly, William showed up out of nowhere. A few of the boys, like Anthony, were mad about his presence, but others welcomed him back. Milan did try to get Anthony to squash whatever animosity he had with William, but William literally had other plans and ran up on Anthony to fight him. It was kind of crazy. Like I said, Milan was trying to get them to squash their beef. Anthony was totally down to squash the beef, and William was definitely on a different page of the book. When William ran up, he deadass got done up so bad. His fade ended with him in the pool drenched. Like, William was literally just drenched in the pool. William tried to explain separately to Milan that he was just mad at Anthony, as from what William said, it seemed like Anthony was just being a bad friend. And like I said, that's just like the gist that I got from whatever the William was trying to say. Gutta started crashing out nonstop as he wanted to fight William due to him being weird and overall weak. Milan talked Gutta out of fighting William and got him to calm down for the moment. While Gutta was distracted, William made his exit. Now, William definitely knew that people wanted his head. Milan's friend Rio arrived at the party, and Milan brought him in and gave him a good little entrance. At one point, Carry-On was flirting with DJ Sky by the fire, and it was kind of funny, no shade. It was just kind of funny, like how he was trying to flirt with her, and then like I feel like she just like wasn't, I don't think she was into it. And then it was just funny that it was DJ Sky, and I was like, what the hell? Natalie then brought Jonathan back into the house to enjoy the party, but he literally made a beeline straight for the master bedroom. Milan then followed Jonathan up there to see what room he would be putting his stuff in, and I don't even know why he said that. Like, he literally said that in an interview. He's like, oh, I'm gonna follow him upstairs to see where he'd be putting his stuff. And I was like, no, you were following him upstairs because you knew that he was gonna be putting his stuff in your room. Milan did come to find Jonathan in the closet of the master bedroom, aka Milan's room. Jonathan was there trying to unpack his own belongings. Milan tried to tell Jonathan that he didn't have any beef with him and that he would be sharing his room with his friend Rio, so there would be no room for him to share it with Jonathan, which is honestly a cop-out. Like, at the very least, I thought that Milan was gonna like try to get his friend to fight Jonathan right away, but no, because he did not want to fight Jonathan. He was trying to be like, oh, you can't force me to share this room because it's gonna be full because I'm gonna be sharing it with my friend. He tried to do that first, and I was shocked. I was shocked that that's where he went first with that. Now, of course, Jonathan protested that this was now his room instead of sharing it at this point. He was just done with the BS. This was now gonna be his room, point blank, period. Now, as Milan was once again trying to explain to Jonathan how he would be sharing this room with Rio felt it necessary to run the fade with Jonathan for the room, which is kind of crazy, honestly, as Milan should have been the one to run the fade. As I mentioned, he definitely had many opportunities, and he just never fucking ran the fade for the room. He definitely should have. And then, like I said, I can't believe he tried to pull the whole, there's gonna be no room to share with you because I'm gonna be sharing with my friend. I can't believe he tried to pull that first. Like, really? So in episode 9, we really just cut right back to Jonathan and Rio and the fight that they had just started in the previous episode over Milan's master bedroom. So we got to see a little bit of the boys squabbling before we then got an interview clip from Jonathan where we actually saw that he was wearing Rio's hair. So essentially in the fight, Jonathan had ripped the literal twist from Rio's head and wore them in an interview clip. It was honestly very comical the way he revealed that it was Rio's hair. I'm not one of ripping, pulling, or like ripping somebody's hair out or anything like that. All I'm saying is that it was kind of comical in the manner that he revealed it. He literally just popped out in the interview clip where he had a hat on and he had all the twists tucked up under his hats. And then he took his hat off and said, I'm like, this is his hair. Like, this hair is not even mine. Milan's backup clearly did not do the job that he needed him to do. Then when Milan was going about this room talking about how he didn't want to fight Jonathan then pulled out a fire extinguisher and acted like he was going to use it on Milan, like spray him with it. Yet when saying this, Milan fully ran away and acted like it was a flamethrower. I was like, what the hell? The way that he was describing it made it seem like he thought that it was a flamethrower, and I was like, that's a fire extinguisher, but pop off. Security did what they could do to try and keep Rio and Jonathan separate, but they for sure had a rough time doing so. After he had calmed down, Jonathan went downstairs, and when the others had asked him what had happened, Jonathan told them that he beat Milan's friend up, which I would say is pretty accurate. Rio was escorted downstairs where he did everything he could to fight Jonathan again, but Rio should have stayed upstairs because this time Jonathan severely knocked him down in front of everybody. Like, upstairs you guys were secluded. Downstairs this happened in front of everybody. Yet Rio did say that he was able to snatch Jonathan's chain in this round. He already got Rio outside where somehow Jonathan was able to sneak Rio, but when he did, the other boys stepped in to stop Jonathan, and it was mayhem with a table being thrown. A table was literally thrown for a minute there. So it was literally mayhem, like I said, until security got a hold of the situation. What's honestly crazy is that in this pandemonium, Milan was low-key nowhere to be found, even though this started from his beef. I also need you guys to point out, you know how I was just talking about how a lot of this was just happening downstairs and outside? The pool party was still happening. So they were doing all of this in the midst of the party. We then got a scene where Milan explained that he called the police, which is beyond crazy to me. Like, that's so crazy to me. Like, you guys are at a party that you hosted. You brought your friend here because you knew that this guy wanted to fight you over the room, and you let your friend got done up twice. Now you're calling the police? Okay. The police had to do their walkthrough while everyone was very tense over the fact, which is extremely understandable. After the police did their walkthrough, Milan and Jonathan attempted to talk it out, but it was a whole lot of hoopla. The party downstairs was able to commence and continue so the other boys could still enjoy their time. At the end of the night, production made Jonathan go to a hotel for the night. In the morning, we immediately got cell phone footage that Mo took of Jonathan bashing Rio with a chair. Literally bashing him with a chair. Rio's arm was bleeding from that. Like, he was getting hit with a metal chair, girl. Jonathan tried to say in an interview that Rio had the chair first and Jonathan had took it from him. And this actually does get verified later. So we then got an interview clip from Jonathan where he said that he would be leaving on that note, and that is facts. This is the last time we see him in the bad boys house for now. I don't know if they were called or not, but the police plus paramedic and Zeus production all flooded the house. Rio was taken in an ambulance to the hospital to get at the very least a tetanus shot, as Rio said that Jonathan tried to bite him. In an interview, Milan made a comment about when he watched the video back, he saw that both Relly and Gutta were present at the time of the chair beatdown and questioned the morality of the two being just bystanders. Later, some of the boys were grouped up talking about what happened overall with the chair. Carry-On tried to ask Gutta and Relly if they were there, but they didn't really want to confirm that, yet Gutta definitely let on that he was there for the entirety of the fight. You know, he kind of let it on without saying exactly that. Dylan was talking to Curtis about how at the party someone went through his stuff and stole his shoes. Okay, they then proceeded to talk about the situation between Jonathan and Rio. Later that night, the boys had a bit of a house meeting by the fire pit outside. When Milan and his friend Rio joined the group outside by the fire pit, there was a lot of initial tension from the other boys in the house, as they did not know why Rio was still in the house, because he's not technically a bad boy or on the official cast. The episode ended with Milan attempting to introduce his friend and say that his friend would be staying in the house for the time being, which is kind of bananas because I didn't know that Milan was a part of the casting team. Back at the house meeting by the fire pit, the boys moved on from the weird introduction to talk about how they threw a good party. Then they talked about the fights with Rio and Jonathan. At this point, I really think that Milan needs to explain why he called the police and not explain why his friend ran a fade for him. Importantly, when Rio was retelling what happened with the chair, he made a point to say, and I am quoting this directly, "So we squared up, we started fighting, that's when I picked up the chair, and I had the chair in my hand. I didn't really get a chance to swing it because we ran right back into each other. And we fought a little more, and he picked up another chair, and boom, he swung at me." End quote. So this does confirm that Rio had the chair first and that he low-key tried to use it in the fight first as well. Mo then asked if they would press charges. Both Milan and Rio did say no, and I thought that was an interesting question to ask. Like, really? Regardless, they all agreed to chill out for now, and they ended their meeting there. The next day, Anthony got the other boys together to not only discuss ideas for their music video, but to also discuss the fact that they needed to finish their song. With that, the boys divided into separate groups to get shit done. We then got to see half of the boys who were featured in the song finalize the song, while the other boys went out to lunch to spitball music video ideas. Later that night, all the boys came together to cast extras and background dancers for their music video. The boys saw the auditionees one by one. They played their song to see what each person would bring. The boys had their own scorecards so they could rate each person. Interestingly, I did notice that Social Barbie auditioned for the music video, and that will be coming up as well. If you do not know who she is another TV native. She is a transgendered woman, and I would not be mentioning that fact if it does not become a point of contention in a later episode, I'll say. That's the only reason why I'm bringing it up. Okay, I have to make that a point to say. Regardless, they all did really enjoy her performance, and I was like, slay, good for her. As the episode was ending, we saw this girl actually get up on the glass table that the boys were sitting at. They were like judging behind this table that was made out of glass. And as this girl jumped up on the table, she was actually jumping around on it. Like I said, glass top jumping fully. And really had the exact same anxiety that I did in that the table could break. And I was concerned for all parties involved. A lot of the boys were concerned for themselves, as if what were to happen if the table broke. I was like, oh my god, what would happen to her? What about her if the table broke? Mind you, she was the one that got up there and started jumping. Episode 11 cut back to the lady auditioner that was dancing and jumping on the glass table that the boys were judging from. Now, thankfully, she did finish her dance without breaking the table and injuring herself and the boys. The boys continued on with their auditions. Mulan Mo was getting way too handsy for my liking. Like, he was literally like feeling up on the girls. You know, the girls that were coming to audition were throwing ass and coming with the pole dancing because this was auditions for a music video being filmed on Zeus. So like the dancing literally fit the vibe. That's what I'm trying to say. But just because that's how they're dancing doesn't mean that you can just come up and start feeling all up on them. Like that doesn't just give you the invitation. Regardless, the ladies didn't seem too bothered by it, but I did want to point that out. Moolah Mo was like literally getting way too handsy for my opinion, and it's not like the girls specifically said that they were okay with that or that would happen. Like at a regular audition, they're not just gonna be touching up on you right then and there. It's like, girl, Jesus, it's a little too much for my liking. At some point, Relly got up to dance with some of the boys, and Curtis deadass did an interview to say that he didn't want to see that. When we all just had to see Curtis do the absolute most with one of the females, I just didn't mention it. Like Curtis as well was being very extra with the women and like being all over them. And with one of the girls in particular, he was getting extremely close with her. And so it's like, sir, I didn't sign up and consent and like ask to see that. What if I didn't want to see that? So who are you to say like you don't want to see Relly doing anything? Who the fuck are you? Milan then called Moolah Mo and Curtis out for giving the boys low scores, as they only wanted women in the music video, so Milan told them to vote fair, which is like, yeah, they were literally giving all the boys that came to dance like extremely low scores just because they did not want any boys in the video. And it's like, okay. The next day, the boys all got together to talk about the auditions and the music video as a whole. They had to talk about how many extras they would want, where they would want to film the video, and what the overall theme of the music video would be. The boys had different tasks, but apparently Rio wanted to ignore his or push it off so that he could stay with the group of boys who would be in charge of like casting the extras from the audition. The group of boys in charge of casting consisted of Moolah Mo, Curtis, Relly, Milan, Rio, and Anthony. They all sat down and looked at their top 22 picks from the auditions to select only 10 for the music video. They all agreed that they wanted the girl who jumped on the table, which was kind of funny to me. When they came to Social Barbie, Relly told them that she happened to be a trans female, and as I mentioned at the beginning, the only reason I mention this is because it specifically pertains to a certain type of ignorance that I'm about to get into, girl. Now, a lot of people already know that about her. I already did, and it's like not an issue. Like, it's such a non-issue, and I think that Relly was only saying it to say it. Like I said, it's a non-issue. It's a literal non-issue. But this absolutely irritated Moolah Mo, like automatically reigniting his ignorant, bigoted way of thinking. Moolah Mo wanted to try to say that there should have been rules for their auditions, and it's like, what do you mean rules? Huh? Moolah then tried to say that because she's trans, she can't come to the house. And I'm literally going to include the clip, and if I can't include the clip, I will include the audio because I was taken aback by him saying that.
But number 4 is not invited here.
Oh, yeah, no, she can't come to the house after finding out that was crazy. When voting for if they wanted Social Barbie or not, the straight men were the only ones who didn't want her in the video, splitting the vote down the middle. With a tie vote, Anthony said that they could come back and vote again for her, like, later. They could come back to her vote later. Yet for some reason, Moolah Mo didn't think that this was fair and wanted to say that if they did that, then they would have to reconsider the first girl they voted on. As Moolah Mo was the only one that voted for her, like, he wanted the very first pick in the video, nobody else did. And so because he felt like his ego was being touched over there possibly being a trans woman in the music video, he wanted to try and, you know, act like a kid, throw a tantrum and say, hey, that's not fair, so you guys have to repick and do what I want. But this didn't come from a place of Mo feeling unfairness. Like I said, it really comes from a place of him feeling insecure and uncomfortable with his own idea of femininity and masculinity. Rio then tried to ask the boys who did want Social Barbie in the music video about why they wanted to cast her outside her being trans. Like, he tried to make it seem like they only wanted her because of an agenda, like they only wanted her in their parts of the video because she was trans, and it's like, that's not the case. Mo then wanted to somehow up the ante on being ignorant and said that he felt like Social Barbie was, quote, out of pocket. So she's out of pocket because she auditioned for a music video? Huh? I'm confused. She auditioned for a music video. A music video. I like how he wants to say that she's out of pocket for auditioning for a music video, but he can't recognize that he was out of pocket for literally being all over the female auditioners as if they were there to him. They were there to audition for a music video, and he was literally acting like they were there to audition for a porn with him. He did not get the vibe of what the fuck was happening, and he wants to say that somebody just auditioning for a music video was out of pocket. Sir, your behavior is extremely out of fucking pocket. Who taught you that that is how you're supposed to act when you're supposed to be professional because they were supposed to be casting people to be in their music video. And he's over here being overtly freaked out. What's really out of pocket, sir? I really just feel like at the end of the day, if there did need to be any rules for the auditions, it should have been that Moolah Mo and Curtis had to keep their nasty fucking hands to themselves. I think that's what the rules should have been. The boys did move on to talk about the next person who auditioned, and I think they did that in order to stop Moolah Mo from saying anything worse. Like, he was literally already just sounding horrible, and I feel like the boys in the room did not know how to deal with it, and they just like moved on. Ultimately, to avoid conflict, the boys decided that they would cast whoever they wanted for their segment as the video, as each of the boys had a different verse in the rap. Milan like really wanted Social Barbie in the video, so did Gutta. He also really wanted Social Barbie in the video, so they just decided they were gonna cast whoever they wanted anyway. We then got to see the other boys scouting for a shooting location. The first location was a makeshift skating park. It was really made like a skating park made from an underpass, and they had to sneak through a fence to get to it. The second location was a small section off a highway that had a view of the city. It was really cute, but it was a really small space. The boys didn't like any of those locations, and Carry On decided that they would just have to make their third location work, regardless of us, the audience, getting to see what it looked like at all, the third location. Later by the pool, Curtis was talking to Moolah about this ticket Moolah had received. Moolah did say that it seemed like he got this ticket from a racially motivated like stance or perspective, and that's extremely unfortunate because I do kind of agree with him. His story does kind of seem like that, and he's right. You know, racism is still extremely prevalent, and even more now. And when this was filmed, like this was filmed in 2020, like it was bad, and it still is very bad. I just wish that, you know, in episode 3, Milan tried to have this talk with Moolah Mo and was like, you're making people a part of the community feel segregated in a type of way that's almost similar to racism. And I really just wish that Moolah Mo would be able to see that, especially in moments like these where he's like talking about it and like talking about how he's affected by, you know, systemic racism. And it's like, my guy, you are so fucking homophobic and transphobic. It's crazy. Regardless, they had a healthy conversation about being young black men in America, and mainly about how ultimately it wouldn't matter how much they boss up. They would always be in that bad boy stereotype due to their skin tone. At the same table they did auditions at, they met with a stylist's assistant so that she could pick out their wardrobe. The assistant also happened to be someone who auditioned to be in the music video. The assistant, her name was Trini, had picked out this big ass pink fur coat for Milan to wear, but he wanted the red and black one. It was just a different red and black big ass fur coat. Moolah Mo then decided that he wanted to try on the big ass pink coat. All the boys agreed that they did not like the pink coat on Moolah Mo, so he and Milan swapped to see if the coats looked better. In my opinion, they did not look better, but they went with it like that. Now, the wardrobe choices were odd, especially when we learned that they were supposed to be robbing a bank in their music video. It's like, girl, it literally looks like you robbed Sully's cousin and skinned him for these coats, not you robbed a bank. Anthony then told Trini that the clothes were low-key not cutting it, as like I said, they would be robbing a bank in the video. Trini left the boys and promised that she'd be back with better clothes for their music video. The final episode of the season began with the boys at the location for their music video. It really just seemed like a big ass warehouse. The boys met with the actual stylist who was the one who put on the fashion show. His name was Winnie. Relly and Curtis gave the talent they casted a pep talk before shooting the music video. The boys then quickly got to filming their video. They all had a lot of fun filming until Anthony got too lit to remember his 4 words he had to say for the music video. I did also peep Randall from Monsters Inc., who is a Lemmy. I just call him Randall from Monsters Inc. I peeped him trying to put himself at the very front of this music video without blurring his face, when earlier in the season he had his face blurred, and now he's trying to be front and center of a music video. With that, the boys gave their exit interview segments as they finished filming their music video. The episode actually ended with the produced music video, which wasn't bad. It was pretty much exactly what I expected it to be. So before I actually get on to my final thoughts, I thought that I would do this fun segment with you guys, and I think in the future when I do full season reviews, I might do it at the end of each episode instead of at the end. But I'm going to be giving you guys basically a pyramid for the cast, Abby Lee Miller Dance Mom style. So that's what we're going to be doing before I give you guys my final thoughts and send you on your way. So starting at the very bottom, okay, I think his name was Andrew. It was that very first guy who got kicked out the first day of filming, like doing their promo shoot, and I put him off the very, very bottom, off on his own little island because he was gone for the entire season, and I don't even really want to consider him a part of the cast, so that's why he's over on his own little islands. Moving on to the very bottom of the pyramid, we have Moolah Mo. Moolah Mo, I just don't even have words to describe this individual. I don't understand with he has such a narrow-minded view and perception. I don't understand why he would go on this show. Absolutely at all. I really don't like him in every single every way. I don't like him. In every way, I don't like him. Moving on, next to him on the bottom of the pyramid is his butt buddy, partner in crime, Curtis. The reason why I put him right next to Moolah Mo on the very bottom is because Curtis did nothing this entire season except for just swing on Moolah's balls and co-sign every little thing he said, and it wasn't like they were good things to co-sign either. Next to be on the bottom of the pyramid is William. William, I did not like him. He really did nothing, literally nothing, didn't even bring the vibes that he said he was going to bring, and then when someone did want to address him for an actual issue he had, not even fight him, just address him for an issue, he ran away and left the house because he thought that someone was gonna fight him. And then when people tried to bring him back into the house to have a conversation with a different boy who also did not have any intention of fighting him, William just ran up on him. For what? You wanted your 5 minutes of fame? You wanted your camera time now? Bye. Literally bye. Next to William, finishing out the bottom row, we have Dylan. Now, Dylan, I really did not like him. I don't know if this was the show for him. He really only had the fights in the beginning and then really brought nothing else. And it's kind of like, it's not like it was anything bad. Like, he didn't take away, and it wasn't like anything negative like what some of these other boys had. It just like wasn't really anything. So moving on to the next tier on the pyramid, we have Rio. I have Rio here because, you know, good on him for thinking that he was going to come in the house and try and beat up Jonathan. He literally did not. Yet, he's not a part of the cast. He's not a part of the cast. He was never casted. He's not a bad boy. Milan is not a casting director, last time I checked. Joining him on this section of the pyramid, we have Milan himself. I think I would have liked him better if he didn't try to be the leader as much, and I actually would have liked him a lot. He would have been moved up way farther on the pyramid if he actually ran the fade with Jonathan. He didn't. He did everything he could to avoid this fade with Jonathan. Had his friend run the fade with Jonathan and then called the police. Girl, weak sauce. Weak sauce. Finishing out this row on our pyramid, we have Carry On himself. Now, I actually did not mind Carry On at all. I just wish he would have stood up for himself more. Like, he kind of let Milan do that. And then at one point, like, when he was trying to have a conversation of sorts with Moolah Mo, he was actively antagonizing him the whole time. But, like, he was literally giving out fighting words and then didn't fight him. And then he low-key did the same thing in the studio with Milan. I didn't like that much. But I didn't hate him at all. I really didn't. Moving on to the second row of the pyramid, we have Anthony. I actually liked Anthony. I kind of liked his vibe, his overall atmosphere he kind of had around him, brought around to the house. I also liked how he did the party planning. He was trying really hard with the fashion show. What else? He tried to fight Milan for his room. He also was going to apologize to William, but then William ran up and hit him. I didn't mind Anthony at all. I actually liked him. Liked the energy and all that. Next on the pyramid is Jonathan. Now, yes, his run was very short-lived, but it was extraordinarily entertaining. It was exactly what the second half of the season needed. The second half of this season needed plot, it needed juice, it needed life, and Jonathan fucking brought it. He brought it. Now, I hear a lot of talk about villain this, villain that, Milani villain, Marie Minks villain, and I do love a good villain, and I hate the fact that people are trying to say Milani is a BGC villain, because no, she's not. Jonathan's a BGC villain, bitch. Are you kidding? Jonathan is the villain that I do like, because he came in not like even intending to be, he wasn't even intending to be a villain. He tried to share the room at first, and yes, Milan wasn't going there. He just wasn't having it, wasn't going there for it. So then at that point, Jonathan decided that he needed to bully him for his room, except he didn't even bully him for it. He had to bully his friend for it. Definitely enjoyed it. Like I said, good entertainment. It was good entertainment, girl. Finalizing this second tier, I have Relly. Now, yes, Relly was kind of annoying in the first episode, but honestly, it gave the kickstart that the first episode needed. Like, he kind of was, like I said, doing a little too much, fighting people he should not have be fighting them only because he thought that they were like given weak fights, you know. That was a lot, but I enjoyed him the rest of the season. I really did. He was kind of like a completely different vibe, and I loved it. I really loved it. Now, speaking of a vibe I love, moving on to the top tier, the pinnacle of the tier, we have Gutta. I really enjoyed Gutta. Her confessionals were amazing. Absolutely loved them. It was also really funny because whenever they wanted to get into a fight, they actually didn't end up fighting. It was only when they thought that like the other people were, you know, not doing enough in their own fights, so they would start crashing out, especially when William came back and William was trying to, you know, get that 5 seconds in the end. Gutta was on that. Gutta wanted that. And I really liked Gutta. He was funny. I enjoyed him in the house. I really did. This is my pyramid. You guys definitely don't have to agree with it. You can let me know your opinions down below. Let me know if you guys want to see this segment more. I had a lot of fun doing it. Moving on to my final thoughts before I send you on your way. It wasn't a bad season overall. It was pretty entertaining for a good minute there, with it dying out in the last 2 episodes. The last 2 episodes about the music video, casting, all of that was pretty dying out. I feel like the only plot line was the fact that Moolah did not want a trans woman in the music video, which is like, okay, we already get that he's ignorant. You know, as I mentioned, I absolutely did not like the transphobia and homophobia coming from the straight cast members. I absolutely did not like that at all. I did appreciate that it seemed like they did really try to come together to do things like the fashion show, recording the song, throwing a party, filming their music video. It was very different. It was like very different from the activities that we see now on the Zeus Network. It was very different, and this was a really good season. Honestly, I kind of almost liked it more than the newest season of Bad Boys. No shade. The beef was pretty organic. It was actually entertaining, and I caught myself wanting to watch, like really wanting to watch the next episode to like write my notes and do things about it. Let me know if you guys want to hear me talk about season 2. It is Bad Boys Texas. With that, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all of the good things. You guys know these videos take me a long time to do. I put a lot of effort into them, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you made it all the way to the end, I hope you have a great day, great night, and bye.